Medicare outreach developer, it sounds like a lot. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation.
It's like a 500-piece puzzle. Every person is their own 500-piece puzzle. Getting it from a resource that is actually certified in Medicare is so much more helpful than trying to pick it up bits and pieces from who you know or who you've dealt with.
So welcome back, everyone, to the MISHRM Resource Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Coyne, and I am very excited to welcome our guest today. She is Elizabeth Robinson. She is the Medicare Outreach Developer at HAP, and I'm excited to have her here. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. So excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you, and we've been talking about this for a while.
I know, it's finally here.
So what I want to find out a little bit more is, Medicare outreach developer, it sounds like a lot, but I mean, so kind of elaborate. What exactly are you doing for HAP? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. Well, so my position has changed a little bit recently.
Okay.
So previously, I have been in a sales position, and now I'm actually more in a position to really develop opportunities for HAP to come in and bring education about Medicare. Yeah. So I spend a lot of my time networking, building relationships, and then collaborating with those partners that I'm making those relationships with to find ways that we can work together, and I can bring from HAP expertise about Medicare from an educational standpoint, not from a marketing standpoint, not from trying to sell and not trying to bang people over the head, trying to close the sale or anything like that, but to bring education about Medicare, to be able to present it in different ways that are valuable for either people who work with Medicare beneficiaries or the Medicare beneficiaries themselves. Okay. So it's really a great opportunity for us to be able to make HAP, and specifically me, a resource for that information, for people who don't live in and work in Medicare all the time, to know the rules and regs and how to answer everybody's questions that you might get asked. So so that's the piece that is really kind of confusing for a lot of people.
Well, let me ask, because I know that just from having a mother who's in her 70s and from others that are in that Medicare age bracket, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of misinformation. What do you find is probably, or arguably, the biggest piece of information that's missing for these seniors?
That is so hard to answer quickly, because the problem with Medicare in general, well, insurance in general, is that it's an incredibly complex topic.
Sure.
It's stressful for everyone.
Yeah.
Most people know that they have insurance and kind of leave it at that. They don't get into the co-pays and understanding what their actual coverage is. Now you add to it all the rules and regulations from the government with Medicare. So it becomes a really daunting and overwhelming topic. And I think what happens is that people kind of decide, it's so confusing, I can't possibly understand this. It's too confusing for anyone to understand. So they put a wall up.
Sure.
So, and on top of that, it's coupled with massively competitive market where people are getting attacked with commercials and advertisements and mailings and phone calls, total spam phone calls all the time, especially for people who are turning 65.
Sure.
For the 6 months before you turn 65, you're getting 6-7 phone calls a day from people trying to sell you Medicare. Yeah. And so it all becomes really overwhelming. And even if you think, okay, I'm going to try to figure this out today, there's so much noise to sift through that you don't even know what you're looking at. So there's a lot of bits and pieces of Medicare that a lot of people are missing.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really hard about it is your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, your whoever, the friend from church. They're all talking to people that they know, that they're friends that have Medicare, and they may have a completely different circumstance that allows them to have what they have for their coverage. So these people over here, these friends, trying to be the resource, trying to be helpful to your loved one or friend or whoever it is, your neighbor, whoever it is. Oh, Sally told me everything I need to know. She told me I have to go here and get this. Well, you may not have that available, and you may need other things too. So getting it from a resource that is actually certified in Medicare is so much more helpful than trying to pick it up bits and pieces from who you know or who you've dealt with. Or even if you're turning 65 and you helped your mother 10 years ago on her plan, what's happened or changed since then is huge.
Sure.
So having that resource, having that source that can provide you updated, accurate, and digestible pieces of information, that's what's really cutting through that noise and being helpful.
I like that. And there's something that I want you to add too, because I know that there's probably a couple of people out there that are thinking, hey, you know what? Medicare is a government, it's government insurance, it's government, it's set up. I'm confused. Why do I have to pay for something?
That's a great question. So in the world of Medicare, there's basically 4 parts of Medicare that most people are familiar with, all the letters. Mm-hmm. Part A, B, C, and D. Yep. So Part A and B are the 2 pieces of original Medicare. This is what's represented by that red, white, and blue card that Medicare beneficiaries get. Yeah. Those are the 2 pieces given by the government. And by given, I mean that you've prepaid for it with your Social Security taxes. Mm-hmm. Part A never has for most people, doesn't have a Part A premium. Most people don't. Some people do, but it's few and far between, and there's specific reasons for that, but I won't get into that kind of thing right now. Fair. Part B always has a premium for it, unless you're eligible for a program through Medicaid that pays for the Part B premium, but everyone has to pay that premium. But that premium that the beneficiaries are paying for Part B is only part of the premium. Part of your Social Security taxes have already prepaid for it. So most of Part A and Part B is already prepaid from your taxes. Your Social Security taxes, the FICA that's withdrawn from your check. Yep. Most people have already prepaid for that portion, but there's still a portion that you have to pay. Now, that's original Medicare. That's only one part of the puzzle when it comes to everyone's insurance needs. The other pieces of insurance are what you elect, or what you as a beneficiary elect, or what you have available to you from, maybe you have a retirement benefit available to you from where you retired from. If you work for one of the big 3 and you have different qualifications, or if you work from a big company that has that retirement benefit, then you can stay in that, and all you're paying is the Part B premium and whatever your contribution would be for that. But there's other options too. So it depends on how you put all the pieces together. I kind of say it's like a 500-piece puzzle. Every person is their own 500-piece puzzle. So working with a licensed certified agent, we know what the puzzle pieces look like. So we ask you the questions so we can kind of put them in the right order and help you put it together.
I love it. I like that analogy. Yeah. People can see that and pull it together. So here's another question based on all of this, because you have a good knowledge of it and you're putting these pieces together. Like, how'd you get here? It's not like exactly, you're like, Greg, I was really thinking about, I wanted to get involved with Medicare. Nope. I wanted to be the outreach person to have. So how'd you get here?
So the funny thing is, my dad, bless his heart, rest his soul, he was an insurance agent for a long time. All right. And I remember growing up watching him just struggle to make ends meet through his business. It's such hard work to be an insurance agent. And I always sat there going, there is no way I'm ever going to you couldn't pay me to do that. Fast forward 11 years ago, I go to work for HAP. I'm in customer service. I walked in the door to customer service. Okay. But I kind of walked in knowing that I would start in customer service and then springboard to another position. Sure. Never occurred to me that it would be sales. Not in a million years. And I landed in the opportunity to move into the individual and family sales department when it was being first created within HAP. I was one of 2 internal agents that were hired to start that department up. And I was okay with it, and I'm still okay with it, because I wasn't an independent agent who's out on the street trying to pound the pavement and build my own book of business. I'm not trying to drum up my own customers. Sure. I was in basically a sales phone queue and answered the phone, and people were looking for information. I gave them information, and then they would make the decision and they would buy. Okay. So then some years later, HAP decided to cross-train the individual and the Medicare internal sales departments, cross-train us, because there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of couples who in their early 60s, one is going to be under 65, one is over 65 or turning 65. So there's a lot of potential crossover there, even within one household.
Yeah.
So they kind of cross-trained us. And then about a year later, they said, we have an opening. We think you'd be good for this, of doing presentations in front of Medicare beneficiaries to help them with information. And so I kind of stepped into this role of field agent at that time, is what that was called. And basically the only responsibility of that job was to sell plans to Medicare beneficiaries in the guise of doing Medicare 101 seminars. And then my leadership sort of gave me the ability to say, do what you want. How hungry are you? Go get it. And so I started working on developing a lot of relationships and networking. And that's when I got involved and got to be the face of HAP via MISHRM.
Yeah.
As the resource partner, they sort of said, here, if you want this, you can have it. I'm like, yes, I want it. Please. Thank you. And have not looked back since, because it's such a wonderful group. And I love meeting everyone and all the events that we do. It's so much fun, but it's personally fun, but professionally rewarding as well. So that's really great for me. And so doing all these presentations and all these collaborations with these community partners, they finally have said, okay, we need you to do this, only do more of it. And then what I do is create these opportunities, these events, these moments where I can collaborate with a partner in one shape or form or another.
Sure.
I can say that correctly. And then I partner one of our trusted agents with that opportunity. So I kind of become a matchmaker at that point. So I create the opportunities and then I match the opportunity to one of our trusted agents. So through dumb luck, I have found a niche that I think I'm really good at, and that's breaking down Medicare in a way that makes people understand it, and being able to connect with those people and using my people skills, because I've always been a talker, and meeting people has always been a good thing for me. So I'm able to marry the networking with the educational component, and I don't have to worry about the selling part. I can connect that to somebody else. So it's really a great landing point for me somehow. I don't really know quite how it happened. I have always said that there have been several points in my life where I look back and I go, my life sort of manipulated me to be in the right place for the right opportunity. And I think this is definitely a good fit for me.
I would agree. And I would also agree that you're a tremendous resource for MISHRM, hence one of the many reasons why you're on today. But here's another thing. You're going to also have those HR professionals who are exceptional, but at the same time, they're like, well, you're not in HR. How can Elizabeth be a good resource?
This is such a great question, especially in the format of this, video cast and going out to HR professionals. So what I bring to the table, again, being that resource, if you work in HR and you have employees who are looking at retirement, or even if they're not retiring, but they're turning 65, they might be coming to you with questions about what they need to do about Medicare.
Yeah.
You might have some basic understanding. Most people have a basic understanding of Medicare, but knowing the ins and outs of what this person needs to do might be really specific and outside of your wheelhouse.
That's fair.
But it's right in mine. So I become that resource. So you can say, hey, Elizabeth, I have a question. I've got this employee, he and his wife are whatever the situation is, and I can help give some advice. Yeah. I can talk one-on-one with that person. But the other thing I can do is I can come in, and I've done this before with different companies, where I can come in and do a presentation to help your fellow HR colleagues. So I can present information directly to HR professionals, how to answer the questions that you're going to get faced with. Or I can set up a presentation to come into your company and deliver it to your employees that might be looking at retirement in the next 2-3 years.
Okay.
Especially in this climate when we have so many people, who are in the baby boomer generation and turning 65.
There are
10,000 people in the country turning 65 every day.
Wow.
Every day?
Every day?
Every day, 10,000 people in this country become eligible for Medicare. That's a lot of people in the workforce to be able to be like understanding what they need to do, how to do it, when to do it. That's what I can do. I can tailor a presentation to any kind of audience. So whether it's people who work with Medicare beneficiaries, the Medicare beneficiaries themselves, family members of Medicare beneficiaries, I can create any kind of a way to come in and bring this presentation.
Yeah.
And I always say that it's not like I'm thinking outside the box. I'm not trying to think outside the box. I don't have a box. So basically any opportunity for collaboration is on the table.
Nice. And my God, there's so many questions. I mean, just that I have. I know that there's many more out there. Mm-hmm. You've probably set yourself up for some incoming phone calls.
Bring it in.
I love it. So, well, here's the thing. They need to be able to get in touch with you.
Yes.
So how do they go about doing that?
So the best way is my email address.
Okay.
So my first name, my first initial, my last name without the last letter. So ERobinso at hap.org. Don't ask me why there's like this naming convention that Henry Ford has, because for those of you who don't know, HAP, Health Alliance Plan, is actually owned by Henry Ford Health System.
Okay.
They're a parent company. So Henry Ford has this naming conventional thing that they do.
Yeah.
And for some reason, most of us lose the last letter of our last name and they never give it back. So ERobinso at hap.org.
Love it.
And my phone number, 248-443-1131.
Awesome. I love this because this has provided, I'll say it this way, more questions than answers after you've answered them. And I think it's just I think Medicare is such a nebulous being to begin with, but the fact that you've got someone that can provide that outreach, number one, but also in bite-sized chunks that are manageable for people is going to be a key component. So I really
I'm
thank
like
you.
a translator.
I like that. That's good. That's good. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for being
Thanks
on here.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. And I want to thank you all for joining us today on our MISHRM Resource Partner Podcast. You heard the ways to get in touch with Elizabeth Robinson. Again, thank you for she is with HAP as the Medicare Outreach Developer. And I'm your host, Greg Coyne. Until next time, thank you for being here and have a great one, everyone. Take care.
Bye.